a wonderful insight a few days ago from a dear colleague of mine. It says, you have in front of you a bracha and a klala, and then you're waiting for the Torah to tell you, and if you're smart, you'll follow the bracha, because if not, you don't observe the mitzvah, you're going to have a klala. But it doesn't say that. Later on it says that at the end of the Torah on Devarim, but here it doesn't say that. So what is the idea? See the bracha and then what? So my dear colleague, Rabbi Haber, had a beautiful idea. Because it's bar mitzvah and grandson's bris milah a few days ago. He's open here. I'll share with everyone. It's a wonderful introduction. He said, sometimes the message of Torah is simply telling you, see the bracha. Just see what's in front of you. See life. There are klalot in life. You have to see that. Watch out for that. And see the brachot that are in front of us. There are so many brachot. The Torah is not telling us now. And see that, and keep the mitzvot so you can get the brachot. Just see what is in front of you and all the beautiful brachot that we have. It's a very beautiful idea. Thank you very much. I did tell you right away, I'm going to use it in the tzibur because that's a take-home drasha. It's a beautiful idea, but it's also a nice introduction to Rabbi Haber. Rabbi Haber and I go back actually to Muncie. We really didn't know each other, but when Rabbi Warren moved here, and my in-laws were in Muncie, so Rabbi Haber was in the shul there, so we got to meet a little bit back then. And then, Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Haber, what is a put for the community? When Rabbi Haber moved to Aliyah here a few years ago. How many years are we talking? 10 years. 10 years, Baruch Hashem. So it's a big zechut to have the Rav in the community, and a very, very big honor for us and Hannah Moore to have the Rav here. Thank you so much for coming.
Erev Tov. Is this on? Erev Tov is the extent of the Hebrew that I'll be speaking tonight.
Who's going to say?
It's just, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here. I was really very honored that you called me to come speak. Something special. Usually, if I do get called to give a shiur someplace, it's always out of town. I never understood why that is exactly. Here I am, so very happy. The topic tonight is forgiveness. We are not speaking about forgiveness of Hashem to us, or even us to Hashem. We're speaking about forgiveness bein adam l'chavero, between man and his fellow man, between husbands and wives, between neighbors, between children, between parents and children, and society as a whole. The concept, the mitzvah, and I'd like to get into the halacha of forgiveness and mechila. Just a very short introduction before we get into the actual material, the chomer, is that it's important to understand, we all know this by ourselves, but it's important to understand that none of us are perfect. Humans were not created perfect. We were created to try to approach perfection. This is the way Hashem created us, imperfect. And because we are imperfect, throughout the stresses of life and the different frictions that come about and personality differences and all types of things that all of us encounter, not day by day, but almost hour by hour, it's very, very likely and probable that most of us have either been hurt by another person or have hurt another person, maybe even today. It's not even a once-in-a-life thing, it's just the nature of life. And because Hashem created us with this imperfection, that we're just not always as careful as we should be, or maybe we're not as resilient as we should be when somebody hurts us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a gift of a beautiful, beautiful mechanism called mechila. The ability, and it's an amazing ability, I think it's almost a supernatural ability, to be able to forgive. This all comes from the fact that we are created in the image of Hashem. Nahu Rachum, just like He has Rachmanas, we can have Rachmanas. We are B'Tselem Elokim, And probably most important, certainly for tonight's discussion, just like He can forgive us, we need to be able to forgive other people, and what may be more difficult, to ask forgiveness when we're wrong. And this is the mitzvah. It's a chiyuv, which I will explain, and but besides for the mitzvah, the chiyuv, and the halacha of it, it's also a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift from Hashem to be able to do this, to have the koach, to be able to forgive. And without it, it's unlikely that marriages can work. It's unlikely that parenting can work. It's unlikely that a shul like this can work. The Torah says, I apologize, you don't have all the svarim in front of you, but take my word for it. The Torah says in Parshas Achremos, speaking about the Yom Tov of Yom Kippur, "Vayom hazeh yechaper aleichem l'tayer eschem mikol chatoiseichem lifnei Hashem titoru," that it's on this day, on Yom Kippur, yechaper aleichem, I will forgive you. L'tayer eschem, I will purify you. Mikol chatoiseichem, from all of your averos, lifnei Hashem titoru. Before Hashem, you can become tahar. So we have here two concepts in the pasuk. There's a concept of yechaper aleichem. Hashem will give us kapara, and lifnei Hashem titaru, and He will give us purity. Along the way, we want to understand what is kapara and what is tahara, but it all happens on Yom Kippur. Shabbos, Shabbosayin hilachem. It's a Shabbos of Shabboses. V'nisamas nafshoseichem. You know, Shabbos, the way I understand it, you can rest. But can you really rest if you know you hurt somebody? Can you really rest if you know you did an Aveira and it's like outstanding? I did something that I really shouldn't have done. My temptation got to me. So you can't really rest. But on Shabbos Shabbosayin, on the Shabbos of Shabboses, then you can really rest. Keep a Shabbos Shabbosayin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yom Hazeh Yechaper Aleichem L'Tayresim, because Hashem gives you kapara. So you can really feel good. You can really, Yom Kippur is a great day. Shabbos Shabbosin Hilachem V'nisamas Nafshoseichem. You don't even have to eat. You don't have to, everything. You're free. You're rested. Chukas Olam, and this is Chukas Olam means, the Ramban says, this is part of the creation of the world. And so says the pasuk. The Mishnah is in Yoma, Paraches. The Mishnah says as follows. They're explaining this pasuk. Avera shebein adam l'makom. It's a very well-known Mishnah. Avera shebein adam l'makom Yom HaKippurim mechaper. That there is a mechanism built in to Yom Kippur that if one has sinned to Hashem, Yom Kippur is mechaper. A different discussion. Is it mechaper with Teshuva, without Teshuva? But there is an element of kapara which is possible on Yom Kippur, which is not possible any other time. Avera shebein adam l'chavero, says the Mishnah, but when it comes to averos bein adam l'chavero, ein Yom HaKippur mechaper. Yom Kippur is not mechaper ad sheyiratze es chavero, until one yiratze appeases his fellow man. If you hurt somebody, you can't go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, forgive me for hurting so-and-so. I really was not nice to my wife. I was really not nice to my child, to my husband. It doesn't help to go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't help. Ein Yom HaKippurim mechaper. Yom Kippur does not work. It does not mechaper. Ad sheyiratze chaveri, until you appease the person whom you hurt. And he is appeased, or she is appeased. So Yom Kippur doesn't work for that. As so darish Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. We know Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah from the Haggadah. Harei Shvanim Shana. But he said this about this pasuk, probably more telling. Mikol chatoiseichem lifnei Hashem titaru. What's really going on is that he looks at the pasuk and does something that only a Tana can do, and he changes the punctuation of the pasuk. And instead of reading it as Vayom hazeh yechaper aleichem l'tayreschem mikol chatoiseichem lifnei Hashem, that Hashem is matar you from all your chatoim before Hashem titaru. He says the correct way to read this is mikol chatoiseichem lifnei Hashem titaru. From the chatoim that you did lifnei Hashem, before Hashem, chatoim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be mitar you. Avera shebein adam l'makom Yom Kippur mechaper. Avera shebein adam l'chaveroi. However, the pasuk itself says Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, if you put the comma in the right place, Ki b'yoyim hazeh yichaper aleichem l'tayreschem mikol chatoiseichem lifnei Hashem. From your chatoim lifnei Hashem I'll be mitar you. But on bein adam l'makom, bein adam l'chavero, this pasuk simply doesn't apply. Avera shebein adam l'makom Yom Kippur mechaper. Avera shebein adam l'chavero ein Yom Kippur mechaper ad shiratze es chavero, until you appease the person who you have hurt. Ad shiratze es chavero. Does this mean that when it comes to a bein adam l'chavero, like the simple way of understanding this would be this, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could forgive sins that you have done to him? You've offended Hashem, ask Hashem for forgiveness. But how is HaKadosh Baruch Hu a balabayis to forgive you for a sin that you've done to another person? If you've offended me, says Hashem, come to me. If you've offended Reuven, Shimon, Sarah, or Leah, so go to her, or to him. Don't come to me with, it's on my, lav bal dvarim didiyat. So that's one way of understanding it. Or another way of understanding it is that don't even come to me and ask for forgiveness until you've straightened out your affairs here on this world, which is much more intense. Don't even come to me. It means to say that this halacha, this wonderful, beautiful thing that we have, that you could do tshuva and have a kapara on Yom Kippur, or anytime you do tshuva, that's only talking about after you have taken care of your human affairs. But before you've taken care of your human affairs, Yom Kippur doesn't even work. So the simple way of understanding it would be that, okay, I can't help you with that. I can only help you with your offenses towards me. But what I believe the real way of understanding it is that you can't even come to me. I can't even begin with a mechila process until you take care of your human affairs. Why would that be?
Can't be half pure.
You
can't be half pure.
My Talmud. Says the Kaf HaChaim. Kaf HaChaim says clearly, and it really comes from earlier sources. I saw this in the Chavos Yoyer. Yesh misha kasav, im lo shav me averoi shebenoi lechaveroi, gam averoi shebenoi lemokoim einoi mischaprim. If you hurt somebody in Sukkos, and you haven't done anything to take care of it, when you're coming to Yom Kippur and you've long forgotten that you've hurt someone, Yom Kippur doesn't work unless we take care of that. I saw it clearly in one of the Mefarshim. I want to read it to you. This is Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ginsburg, a beautiful sefer, by the way, called Musar HaMishnah. I died to have that sefer. He goes through so many of the Mishnayos of Shas, and he understands it al pi derech hamusa derech haggadah. And he quotes here also the Chavos Yoyer. The Masha Amru she'ein Yom Kippur mechaper al avera shebein adam lechaveroi zehu she'im yesh avera beinoi lebein chaveroi. Says the Chavos Yoyer, ein Yom Kippur mechaper klal afilu lahavera shebeinoi lebakum. As we just said, says the Musar Mishnah as follows: Ha'ad im ha'adam einoi meratze es chaveroi b'ma shechata kenegdo. If a person does not make good on damages that they have done between man and man, hareza doma kemo shenishar bo eza makom shloi tava loisai. It would be like, here, Rabbi Eliezer, like you go into a mikvah and you leave one finger out. Not even talking about atovel v'sheretz biyada, but you just simply leave a finger out. So the way it works is, I don't know why this is, it's exeris hakosef. You can't just be matire your hand, you can't just be matire your whole body. If one finger's out, same thing with a cleat. When you take a keli to the mikvah, you can't just do, like when you're koshering something, you can do half, so the other half. You don't have to burn yourself. But when it comes to putting a dish or a pot into the mikveh, has to go in all the way, and you have to let go a little bit just so the water can get even where your fingers are. It has to be completely immersed. Yirmiyahu said, mikveh Yisrael Hashem. Mishnah says further, Ma mikveh matayr es hatzmeim, Ava Kodesh Baruch Hu matayr. Right? Everyone knows the niggin from Lag Bomer, right? Omer Rabbi Kiva, Omer Rabbi Kiva. That just like the mikveh is matayr the tmeim, Ava Kodesh Baruch Hu matayr eschem. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu lifnei Hashem. Remember the word titaru. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitaher Klal Yisrael, but it works with the mechanism of a mikveh. And just like a mikveh, you can't aim tara l'chatzoyin. You can't be a little bit tahar. You have to be pure. Pure is 100% pure. I'd like to, as we go on, try to explain the concept more, but just let's understand the way it works. Mishum she'i after liyois tahara l'chatzoyin. There's no such thing as tahara l'chatzoyin. You can't be chatzi tahar. Chatzi, are you tahar? You tell me, well, I'm talking about my right side, my left side, my hands, my feet. It's a pretty simple thing. Like, let's say you rob the bank in the morning, you can't daven mincha in the afternoon. Like, what's the? You have to take care of that. You can't divide. We can't be so divided.
Compartmentalized.
Right, compartmentalized that I'm stealing from people, I'm robbing people, I'm insulting people, and then I'm going and I'm davening in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lifnei Hashem titaru. There has to be a tara here, just like a mikveh. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter famously says that somebody is running to catch a minion, and on the way he bumps into this one and trips that one and pushes somebody aside. I got to make my minion. So he says tfilaso efes. That's his lashon. Tfilaso efes. I presume to update that to modern times where we're not running so much to a minion anymore. But let's say you speed and you drive and you hit and you put people in danger and you scare people and there's no way. That's no way to go in mincha. Like lifnei Hashem titaru, one has to be sholem. This is the Jewish thing, to be sholem my ben adam l'makom and my ben adam l'chavera. So the pasuk is a rough one, according to the Chavos Yair, telling us that really our avoda now, besides for the Teshuva that we're all doing, is to try to make amends. I say it's a rough one because there's only one God, but there might be many people that I have offended. It's very difficult, it's really not on my program here to speak about it, but we really, I think especially today, you have to be so extra careful. It's so easy to offend people. People send emails, email, we're bakatzer. You do it from your phone, you do it from, and so often, you say, what's this guy so angry about? Why are you being so offensive? And when you talk to the person face to face, everything's fine. But there's you have to be so careful. I'm on an agenda in my shul. No shul business should be done by email. That's my except for exchanging documents or pieces of information, not discussions, because it's too dangerous. You don't even know who you offended. Especially me, I send out a mailing with I think it's 6,000 emails a week. If I say something that's offensive, it's like offensive. Where am I going to go? Who am I going to talk to? It's a pretty frightening thing. The Gemara says in Yuma, tells a story, where it says that Rav, Havi Pasik Sidra Kama Direb. Rav was the Talmud Muvak youngest, but the Talmud Muvak of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was nifter for a short time, Rav took over giving the shiur. He was the Magid Shir in Eretz Yisrael. There was issues who should be. Rabbi appointed his sons, and it's not that Rav went off to Bavel. That's the backdrop for this Gemara. He went to Bavel, and he wouldn't even move to the place of Shmuel, who already was in Bavel. He moved to the next town. He moved to Pumbedisa and Nardoi. There were two different towns, and that's what he did. So the Gemara tells a story. Rav Haber Pasuk Sidra Kamei de Rebbe. When Rebbe was still alive, so Rav was saying over the Torah, the Mishnayos, the Shiurim. Ayel Aser Reb Chia, he was in the middle of talking, and Rabbi Chia walks in. Chodr l'reisha, out of kavod for Rabbi Chia, he went back to the beginning of his shir. He goes on, he's talking, Ayel Bar Kapara. So Bar Kapara then came in. I'm glad I'm not the first person in history that comes late.
We have videos.
Ayel Bar Kapara. So Bar Kapara comes in. Chodr l'reisha. So he started again his shir l'chavod Bar Kapara. Also Reb Shimon Berevi, Rebbe's son Reb Shimon comes in a few minutes later. Chodr l'reisha. Again, the third time. He's talking. Also Reb Chanina Bar Chama. Then Reb Chanina Bar Chama came in. Amar Sarav said to himself, Kula hai, nay different hezel, enough is enough. How many times could I say over the same shir? So he just ignored him and he went weiter. Loi hada. Ikpid Rabbi Chanina. So the Gemara, Rabbi Chanina was bothered by this. For Reb Shimon you stop, for Reb Chia you stop. Why for me you don't start again? Also Rav l'gabei tleiser male yoymed de Kippur. For 13 years on Erev Yom Kippur, he went to Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama to ask him for mechila v'lo yipayis, and he would not give him mechila. Asked the Gemara, what was his right to withhold mechila? We're going to learn later. The Rambam says if somebody asks you mechila and you don't give him mechila, you're an achzor. So what? Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama wasn't an achzor. V'hamer Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina called him avakesh matu mechaverai. Al Yivakish Mena Yoshim Mishloish Ban. That's not actually the Gemara's question. The Gemara's question is, why did he keep on going? 3 times you have to go. So the Gemara says Rav shiny. Rav doesn't mean Rav. The person means your Rebbe is different. So Chanina Bar Chama considered himself, and was, to some extent at least in office, a Rebbe of Rav. And a Rebbe, for the purpose of chinuch, does not have to give mechila, first of all. And second of all, you have to go back and back and back and back and back again. So that's the limit of this Gemara. Reb Chanina heichav hachi. What was Reb Chanina's kavana? He should have just been moichel. So the answer is that he was trying to teach him, as Rashi points out, he was trying to teach him that his heart has to be so sensitive. Is our heart so sensitive? Our heart, the heart of Rav, probably the most sensitive soul in the universe at that time, wasn't sensitive enough. If you want to stop, this is my parish, if you want to stop for this one or for that one or this one, you want to go on back to the beginning, okay, like you don't have to do that. But you go back for him, you go back for him. How does it look to make? There was a chinuch issue here. That was the chinuch issue that he was addressing. So the Shulchan Aruch, and I want to read you the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says that Erev Yom Kippur, which is now, one has to make sure that they straighten out all their affairs. Says the Shulchan Aruch in Tov Reish Vav, or Chaim Hilchos Yom Kippurim, Afilu loy hiknitai elo b'dvarim tzarech lefaisa. They say, good, just words. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So what's wrong? I said something. It doesn't have to be so sensitive. So this Shulchan Aruch says clearly for this, Afilu lo yiknitai elo b'dvarim, even if it's only words, tzarech lefaisai. V'neinoi mefaisai b'rishona, yatzer v'yelech pam shniya, says the Shulchan Aruch. And if it didn't work the first time, you have to do it the second time. Ushlishis, and the third time. U'b'chol pam, this is something we don't do, yikach imo shlosha anoshim. And there's all kinds of halachas here. You have to take 3 people with you. You have to change the language every time you go. You have to come at it from a different angle. You can't leave it an open tip. Can't. V'im einoi mispayish b'shloisha pamim, says the Shulchan Aruch, and if 3 times doesn't work, einoi zakik lo, you can leave it alone, unless, as I just mentioned from the Gemara, it's your Rebbe, it's a Rebbe-Talmud relationship, then the 3 times does not appeal. But between the rest of us, it's 3 times and 3 times. That's talking about 3 times with bringing an entourage of people. So it's a bigger kavod for the person, and it shouldn't be like, in other words, if I apologize in front of 3 people, I'm publicly apologizing. seen people do this in my life. I've seen people not take the 3 people, but I have seen people who felt they wanted to do tshuva get up in shul and say, I apologize to so-and-so, mentioning a name, I heard him, and I want to be apologized for him. That seems to be the correct thing to do, unless that's going to embarrass the person. We have a new problem. Im hu rabbi, says the Shulchan Aruch, tzarech le'elachloi kama pamim ad sheyispais. You have to keep on going back and back and back again. Ramayetz, all just summing up the Gemaras we just learned, that hamoichol lo yiyah atzori milimchol. And if someone's asking you mechila, so don't be an achzor, because why would you be an achzor? Because you're holding back by not giving mechila. You're holding back, as we learned from the Chavos Yair, the entire possibility of this person doing tshuva on Yom Kippur. Now, by the way, this is talking about even bidvar, even if it was just words. If there's more to it, then you. This is even words. Let's say you owe somebody money. You borrowed money you didn't pay back, or you didn't keep your word, or you dented somebody's car and drove off. Any of these things, it's not just that that's not taken care of. Remember this Chavos Yair, not just that tshuva doesn't work for it. According to the Chavos Yair, according to the Chaf HaChaim, it's ma'akiv the whole tshuva that we can do. Lifnei Hashem, averes yidu lifnei Hashem, titar. Otherwise, it just simply doesn't work. The Mishnah Berurah, by the way, while I'm here, says the only heter not to grant somebody mechila, if they're asking you for mechila, is if it's l'toivas hamavakesh. That would be the case of a Rebbe in a Talmud. L'toivas hamavakesh, the Mishnah Berurah says, Kedei she'ei nichna libay ha'orel v'lo yargil b'kach. Mikol malkim nira libay tzarech lahasir asina mimenu, that even if you're playing this game and you're not immediately forgiving, I don't know who has the right to play this, maybe somebody who's really a big Talmud Chacham, but nevertheless, that doesn't go for what's in your heart. In your heart, you should be mochel the person. Even though you're not saying out the mechila, you should be mochel the person. Because after all, the person is asking you for mechila. A story I heard from my Rebbe, Rav Sheinberg, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, that someone, one of the Bachrim in Yeshiva, came to Rav Elya Lapian and said that I spoke Lashon Hara about the Mashgiach, Rav Elya Lapian, and it's Erev Yom Kippur, and I want to ask mechila. And it took this boy days and days and days to get up the guts to come in front of the big tzaddik, Rav Elya Lapian, and ask him mechila. And Rabbi Yaacov Haber's response was, I'll let you know. And he now, you can argue that just the sweat and the pain that he went through to stand there and ask Mechila should be enough. I'll let you know. And Rabbi Yaacov came to him 3 days later and said to him, okay, I spent many, many hours on this, and I'm Muslim. So there's a seriousness that's there on the part of the one who's asking mechila, and a very, very important seriousness that's there on the part of the person that's to give the mechila. Yeah.
In mechila, the person says, "Okay, I forgive you," but I'm still running inside. It might take weeks or months to overcome it. But I technically want you to be off the hook. So I'm both. It's not I'm angry.
So that I think that's the limit of the story of Rabbi Yaacov. We all do this, right? This is our minhag. Like Erev Yom Kippur is a busy time. There's a lot of handshaking going on, and everybody's moichel, but somehow, like the day after Yom Kippur, everybody's still angry at each other. Like bakara. The answer is nothing kara. Nothing happened. But the kuda of it is that mechila, I want to explain it more because it's really the point that I want to get to. But mechila is from the lave. That's where in other words the part of tzedakah you can give with your hand, wherever your lave is, it's good to have your lave involved. Tefillin you can put on, but mechila is not b'dibur. Mechila is the kli of mechila is the lave. So says the Shari Teshuva. The kli of mechila is the lave. So if that's the kli, so if that's not there, if I'm just being friendly and diplomatic, or I just don't want to bother with the person anymore. By the way, I just want to make this point clear. Just because you're mochel the person, the concept of mechila doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to let them drive your car tomorrow or babysit your children. This is not referring to a concept of being a fool. Somebody hurt you, somebody is reckless, somebody's careless. Say it. Now, if I'm mochel you for the pain that you've caused me, that's an avoda. It's a big avoda on the person who's asking mechila. It's a big avoda on the person who's granting mechila. Depending on the circumstances, I presume sometimes this is the bigger avoda and sometimes this is the bigger avoda. But it's a big avoda. It's a big thing. This asking mechila and granting mechila. And let's get back to it in a minute, because of course this is the key question. How much lave? How much kavana? What's really involved in mechala? So, the makor for this idea of mechila comes from, the Gemara tells us, comes from the story of the brothers of Yosef. In the case of the brothers of Yosef, they wronged him. They sold him down the river. They almost killed him. They spoke lashon hara about him. They had Sina and Diba. They hurt Yosef. And we're troubled by this. Chazal tells us they were troubled by this the whole time Yosef was missing. It wasn't something that it occurred to them. They were doing tshuva for years and years and years. But what's tshuva without actually finding Yosef and asking him for mechila? What is the tshuva? So look at this. Look at the situation that the Achi Yosef were in. Now, if you'll read Farshim like Rav Hirsch, even going back to the Orach Chaim or even the Ramban, they did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong. Nevertheless, even if you don't do something wrong, did they hurt Joseph? Yes or no? They hurt him. So since you hurt him, they had a din, they had a beis din, they had all kinds of yeshiva shetorah explaining the Achi Yosef. But what we're interested in here tonight is the bottom line, and the bottom line is they hurt Yosef. And if they hurt Yosef, it meant that the whole time, all these years and years went by, they weren't really able to be matayar themselves in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the Shiftei Kah. Lifnei Hashem Titaru, but they had this Beit Adam L'Chavero here, Beit Adam L'Achiv. So, by Yosef, the exact pasuk here. Vayitzavu al Yosef lemor. The brother said to Yosef, Vayitzavu al Yosef lemor, Avicha tziva. This was after Yosef revealed himself, Ani Yosef ha'od avichai, and after they were already settled in Mitzrayim, and after it seemed like everything was okay. So the pasuk says that they came to Yosef, Vayitzavu al Yosef lemar, Avicha tziva lifnei Mosa lemar, that your father, Avicha, our father, your father, commanded before he died to say, Yaakov had already died, Ko somru li Yosef. These are the words that you should say to Yosef. Ana sana fesha achecha v'chatosam kirag malucha. Yosef, in other words, he wrote a nusach for the brothers. Told them this is the words that you should say. Go to Yosef, even though you think maybe it seems like let bygones by bygones. No. This is what you should say. Quote, Anna, please, Sana. Sana means like carry our sins. Like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a nosei avam. Sana fesha achecha. Carry, please, the sin of your brothers. V'chatasam. Kirag malucha. Because your brothers, us, we have done bad to you. So here you have it. Va'ata, and now, this is still the Lashon, Sana, lefesha avdei elikei avicha, vayef Yosef bedabram elav. So Chazal point out that there were 3 Lashonos of Mechila that Yaakov instructed all of his sons to ask to Yosef. Yaakov was thinking about the Teshuva, the Olam Haba, the future of Klal Yisrael, and he said to his sons, you should say Ana, Lashon 1, Sana, Lashon 2, Ve'ata Sana. 3 different Lashonos. The Bach learns that they're slightly different because when you ask Mechila 3 times, it has to be slightly different. Slight. I mean, what they did wrong, they did wrong. How much can you change it? But there has to be like a little bit of a different Lashon. It shouldn't just be, you're coming to somebody, right? There has to be some thought into it. But the key thing is here that there were 3 Lashonos of Mechila, and from here we learn that everybody, we're not talking now about a Rav and a Talmud, but everybody has to ask Mechila at least 3 times. The Mefarshim say that Harashus Nesuna, you're allowed to ask Mechila more times if you're so inclined, but the halacha is Einoi Zakuk. Not mechuyev to ask more than 3 times. It's kilo, I guess, if you ask somebody Mechila sincerely 3 times and they don't want to be mochel you, and they're not mochel you, so it becomes their problem. And this is not something we can hold for ourselves. Like, we can't hold everybody's tshuva over their heads. Come to be more. Somebody asks you mechila, you have a lot over. How much is it worth to you? The mechila, like so that's not the way it goes. You get 3 chances. By Yomer, first it says that Yosef cried, so he took this very seriously. By Yev Yosef bedabram elav. Let's put ourselves there and try to understand the dynamics of what was going on. A whole life had gone by. Yaakov Avinu was passed away. Yosef was the king of Egypt. And Yosef hears this. Vayef Yosef. He's crying. He's thinking over all of these years, and here they're coming and they're asking Mechila. Vayelchu gamecha vayiplu lefanav v'yomer hinenu lecha la'avodim. Ad kedei kach. Vayomer aleim Yosef. So that's the bakasha of Mechila. The response, we don't have a response yet. The response so far is he cried. This is not, crying is not Mechila, right? Vayomer aleim Yosef al tiro. Don't be afraid. Ki atachas elikim oni, v'atem chashavtem alai ra'a elikim chashava l'toiva. Laman asoy kayom hazel lahachyos amrov. Yosef tells them, he gives them a little lesson in Jewish philosophy, and he says that there's a God in this world, and as you can see, everything that has transpired, even your averos, were bashert, were min hashamayim. If you would not have hated me, if you would have not have thrown me into a ditch, if you would have not have sold me to the Midyanim and the Egyptians and all that, the Ishmaelim, so then I would not be the king of Egypt, and I would not be able to give you food, let alone the rest of Jewish history as it unfolds. So he says to the brothers, you didn't send me here, Hashem sent me here. Va'ata, and then he goes further and he says, Al tiro, anoichi achalkel estem, I will continue to take care of you. V'astapchem, your children, v'yinachim oisam, he comforted them, v'yidaber al libam, and he spoke to their hearts. So here we have a beautiful episode of Bakoshes Mechila. I ask you, do we see and hear that Yosef was mochel them? No, mochel. It's not because of you. Somebody can really hurt another person, and we can say, and we're probably obligated to feel, min hashamayim. It's min hashamayim. In fact, I know that the Shari Teshuva says that the correct way to be mochel somebody, how can we ever be mochel somebody if they've really hurt us, is to accept the fact that everything has been hashamayim. So Yosef was more makabel on himself the fact that everything has been hashamayim than he was being mochel them. But he did comfort them, and he did say he'll take care of them. Vayinachem oisam, vayidaber al libam. A beautiful story. Comes the Rabbeinu B'chaya, which you may know, it's a well-known Rabbeinu B'chaya. Vayef Yosef B'dabra Melo. I just want to read you his words because they're so. Tekef shehiskiru lay aviv bacha legoydol ha'ava v'nichmer rachmav. As soon as they mentioned Yaakov Avinu's name, he already started crying. He became emotional. V'hinei, says the Rabbeinu B'chai, Echa pikshu mimenu mechilo. The brothers asked him for mechila v'loy be'er ha'kasiv shemachal lahem, and nowhere in this text does it say that he actually did give them mechila. Ukvar be'eru chazal, and Chazal have already taught us, shekol mi shechata lechaveroi v'asa tshuva einoi nimcha la'olam ad shiratza es chavera. The mechila doesn't work until ad shiratza es chavera. They have to have had to appease him and to extract an actual, sincere levavi mechila from him. This we don't find. That he comforted them. Vayidaber al libam, he spoke to their hearts. They had a heart to heart. Shenira b'zeh shahayilab ritzui miyosef. It sounded like they did get some ritzui here. They did get some appeasement, or they did appease him. Mikol makom, nevertheless, lo ra'inu sheyaskir akasim mechila b'yosef. The pasuk says nothing about the fact that Yosef was mochel them. V'lo sheyodalem sheyisapishem v'chatosem. Vim came, so therefore, says the Rabbeinu B'chai, that I must conclude that Mesu ba'ansham, that the brothers died in their sin. This was never taken care of. Beloy mechilas Yosef. V'yevshir lischaper avonim rak b'mechiloseh. Whatever you're thinking, there is simply no way around it. If Yosef did not say machalach, then you do not get mechilah. Baal Kain, says the Rabbeinu B'chai, hutzrech ha'onesh liyos kamus. The onesh for this avera of the Chet Yosef had to stay hidden in Hashem's chambers. V'chosum liyipaked, the din was signed, liyipaked acher zman, and eventually this came out be'inyan asara harugei malchus. This is the story of the Chorban of the Bayis Sheni.
So it has to be a verbal declaration. It can't be like,
yes.
okay, kind of like, you can know somebody's mad at you, and then they, their body language tells you they're not, they give you a hug maybe. It has to be about verbal.
Ad sheyimchos chavera v'yiratzeyu. The hug is the v'yiratzeyu. Yimchos chavera is the deeper. Because even in the heart tzvi, what do you do if a person doesn't have the ability to talk? For instance, so he brings a raya that sometimes it can work because we see that there's a din that if some person wasn't mochel you, so you go to their kever and you ask mechila there. Hopefully nobody's talking. Nobody's saying machalach in the kever.
What is it about the peh that?
It's everything, right? It's like everything. Just like you have to daven with your
You
peh.
can say it, not mean it,
But we're not
express it and not mean it, like in your verbal cues, in your nonverbal cues.
Try to get the verb. Try to get the words. Well, I was at a levaya a few weeks ago in Har Zaysim at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Somebody from America was brought in, 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was scary and spooky. Two things. I was scared about what was going on the outside and spooky about what was going on the inside. It was just a scary, spooky situation, and it was just almost all over it. It was dark. There was like one floodlight there to luckily help the people were. I'm sure you've been in these types of things. It was Har Zaysim, and there was like screaming in the background. Well, I don't know, it was a strange situation. And one fellow from the crowd got up and he said, "I need to talk here for a minute." So, okay, we weren't ready really for his Spadim at this hour of the morning, and he stood in front of the kever and he explained at length how he had hurt this person, and when he heard that he had passed away and he was coming to Eretz Yisrael, he wants to ask Mechila for the whole thing. He told the whole story, and it made it scarier and spookier. Yeah. I have to say there was no response. No response.
What happens if someone comes to you and says, it's a kippur, and my wife, and all of that, and you really don't remember what this person is referring to? So it's kind of embarrassing to say, really? Have to be a model for what? And isn't that more of a pain for that person to say, well, listen, this happened last 12 years or whatever?
I think, I'm not 100% sure. So what the Rav says here, but I think that if a person thinks they hurt you, and you don't remember, maybe they hurt you. Maybe it wasn't the pain, so it doesn't require mechila.
But if you say, okay, I'm what for you, and you don't know for what,
Right,
then
it's
that really-
meaningless.
It's meaningless.
If you've done it, I accept your apology, but it's not. That doesn't work with hilchos mechila.
So you can actually say, okay, I'm
Say whatever you want.
like the other person.
Say whatever you want. I want to take just a couple of minutes. Look, this is the sources. This is the halachas. Another halacha that I should mention is that the Kaf HaChaim brings is that mechila through a shaliach doesn't work. You have to ask mechila face to face. I want to explain something. Just to take a moment to explain something, which I think is really a deep halachic concept. The language of the Rambam is as follows. Perak Sheni Hilchos Teshuva. Einat Teshuva, v'lo Yom Kippur mechaperim el avera shemein al l'makom. Good review of everything we learned. Kigoin, for instance, Sha'achal Davar Asr. He tells us what an avera is. For those that don't know what an avera is. Kigoin Sha'achal Davar Asr. You ate something forbidden, like Baal Bilas, or you had a forbidden relationship. Ukiyotzebah. Aval avera shemein al l'chaver. But if one violated a social avera, could go, for instance, hachol velas chaver. Let's say you punched somebody, you hurt them somehow. Or hamakalo chaver, or you cursed somebody. O gozlo, or you stole from somebody. Ukiyotze ben, anything like that. Eino nimchalo la'olam ad sheyitain lechaveroi mashu chayev lo, until you give back what you took. Vayirat sehu. And you appease him. I want to point out for just a couple of minutes here that there are two dinim in this Rambam. There's a din of ad she yiten lechaverei mashu chayav loy. First, you have to give back what you took. Vayirat sehu, and you also have to appease the person. These are two separate concepts that are not the same. I started talking about this at the beginning, and I want to explain what I mean by that. Let's say Reuven steals money from Shimon. Either he holds him up, or he embezzles him, or one way or the other, one Jew steals from another Jew. So now there's a din of Veheshiv Zagzela. Sure does. You have to give back what you took. You don't want him to know that you stole the money, so you drop it. Either you get it back into his bank account somehow, or you drop it on his front lawn, or you do something to get back the money. So that's part. That's 50%. You're 50% there. You've done tshuva in the sense of you are no longer holding the article. You've given back the person what is rightfully theirs. But you didn't do the second half of it, and the Rambam says this clearly in Hilchos Geneva Ba'aveda, of going to the person and asking him mechila, because actually two things happened over here. One thing is you took his money, and the other one is you violated the person.
Even if he didn't know about it.
Even if you didn't know about it, you violated the person. You didn't have kavod for another person. So the halacha is that it's not good enough to just give back the stolen article, if that's what we're talking about. You have to also have this discussion with the person. Very, very uncomfortable, yes? But that's the din. It's not always easy. That's the din. You have to. Let's say the other way around. Let's say you go to the person and say, look, I'm really sorry. I stole $150,000 from you. And I don't know where my head was, and I don't know how to do this. I had a story, I just got involved in a story recently where a son had stole from his father, I think it was $170,000. The part of the story I was amazed by is that the father didn't notice. It would be impossible to steal even $100. That I would have done. $170,000. So, I mean, I have no way to pay you back. Money's a load of money. It's gone. It's not hard to blow $170,000. I don't have the money to pay you back. So what do? So the father says, okay, look, I love you. What this father did, by the way, is he threw his son in jail. He asked the Rav. The Rav told him that's what he should do. Call the police. I'm not being down on that right now, but that's what he did. Don't worry, I still love you. Thank you, Dad. They hug each other. Everybody's crying. Vayef Yosef. So what the halacha is, if either he has to give back the money, or there has to be a straight out mechila on the part of the father saying, "Amochel l'chov." Do you understand? Like, in other words, there's two things that have to happen over here. One, and haba le'ha doesn't work. So one thing that has to happen is that the relationship has to be straightened out, and the other thing that has to happen is that whatever I took has to be replaced. So those two things always have to happen. Here's where it gets tricky. Let's say it's not something as easy as $150,000 or $170,000, but it's more like I insulted you or I embarrassed you in public. So now there's two things that have to happen. One of them is I took something from you. I took away your kavod. I took away your public dignity. I took away a lot of things from you. I caused you a lot of pain. Maybe you didn't sleep at night because I caused gezel shena. A lot of things. I took a lot of things from you by cursing you in public, embarrassing you somehow in public. So it's tricky because how do you give that back? How do you return that? $150,000 kid stuff. But how do you give back a person the dignity which you took away from them? So again, two things have to happen. One thing that has to happen is we restore the relationship. Vayiratsehu. That's the ritzui. The second thing that has to happen is either I give you back your dignity, which is impossible, or you are mefurish, moichel, on what happened. So it becomes like an article of money, or it becomes like a hezek. I caused damage. The mechila, and this is the language, right? This is the halachic language. The mechila has to do with actually being mochel l'chov, and the ritzui has to do with the relationship. One without the other doesn't work. So what happened with Yosef? What happened with Yosef is, okay, I'm merutza. You're telling me my father, you're telling me, I know it's min hashamayim, I know it's basheret, I know that you didn't bring me here, Hashem brought me here. We have a ritzui. What says the Orach Chaim, what we don't have here is a mechila. But I was sitting there with snakes and scorpions, and I could have gotten killed. They sold me. I was so unpleasant. I was a slave. What about that? And this apparently, why wasn't Yosef mochel? Because I guess he wasn't mochel. So somehow or another, there was this possibility of getting the relationship back together again, but a mechila he didn't have, and for that mechila there was this outstanding chov. For the lack of mechila, there was an outstanding chov in history, which took us all the way to the Chorban Bayesheni, and we hope that's it. As Hashem, that's it, and we need to be masakin that. But this is what we need to remember. The halachic part of it. What we need to remember is that if we hurt, or we were hurt, two things has to happen. What has to happen is an actual mechila, which is the same as either you pay me, or I have to be moichel, like a chayv. That's one thing that has to happen, and it has to be b'dibur, I believe, and it has to be real, and I don't think you accomplish it by going to a cemetery at 1 o'clock in the morning and asking mechila. I don't think you can restore the relationship with that one either. But there is such an inyan, it helps, but it's not a mechila gemura. It's not a mechila gemura. A mechila, it means that there's a chov, and the chov, I know that the Mefarshim speak about going to children, paying back the chov. It's not so partial. It's an outstanding debt. A, B, the ritzui echad la'asheni. I'll give you just a very good and quick example of how this applies. There's a machlokas, a very important machlokas. If you speak lashon hara about someone, and the person doesn't know you spoke lashon hara, sort of a little bit like your case, but they really did speak lashon hara about you, so they caused damage. So here there's a known machlokas between the Chafetz Chaim and Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. The Chafetz Chaim says that it doesn't help to do tshuva, a la everything that we've learned. You must go to the person who you spoke lashon hara about and say, I apologize, like this person with Rabbi Lapian, I spoke lashon hara about you. You have to, according to the Chafetz Chaim, you have to give him an idea even of what you said, even though he says you don't have to go into pirut. You don't have to tell him all the gory details, but you do have to say that I spoke about you, and you have to ask the person for mechila. That's what the Chafetz Chaim says in Sefer Chafetz Chaim. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was asked this question, and he said, no. You're going to go to the person, you're going to make it worse. Do tshuva, stop talking lashon hara, try to undo the damage, but don't make it worse. So you have a machlokas, a very interesting machlokas between the Chafetz Chaim and Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. What do you do if you've spoken lashon hara? My advice is don't speak lashon hara. It's a real pain to go to somebody and tell them that I spoke lashon hara for you, and still remain with the relationship. Here's what they're arguing about. The Chafetz Chaim, well, let's do it the other way. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter understood that not speaking ill about another person is a pegia and ben olam l'chaver. It's a lack of mitos. I wronged you, I did a bad thing, so I ruined a relationship. Don't make it worse. The Chafetz Chaim says, you got it wrong. It's not that you were pogeya and like you don't have good mitos. When you speak lashon hara about another person, you are a mazik. You have damage. You drove into their car. It's hit and run. That's what it is to talk lashon hara about another person. And what is it going to help? It's okay. So my relationship might get worse, but you have this chov, and either you have to pay the chov, and how are you going to do that? Spoke lashon hara about somebody. How are you going to pay the chov? No way to pay the chov. The only way left is to ask the person mechila, make the situation worse. So daven, fast, do whatever you have to do. Pray for insight and siyata d'shmaya that you shouldn't make the relationship worse. Come up with the right words and the right way to do it. But you have no way out. You have to ask the person mechila. That's how this paskins. That's how the Chafetz Chaim paskins, and it's exactly to this point that you have to have mechila and ritzui. So that's really what I wanted to say.
Rabbi,
Yes.
what if somebody, let's say a child is twisted or whatever, and they're not going to go to the parents and ask them to but in your heart you forgive them. Can you do that?
So that's the story of the Gemara. But you should extract. You mean if your child or a child?
But, yeah, like let's say your child, you know that they should be asking you, and they're not
Right.
going to do it.
Look, for chinuch, you can make pretend a lot of things, but in your heart, you have to be mochel. Told in our shul the story. Stipler, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, was in shul, and he sees a boy on the other side of the Beis Medrash, Bnei Brak. He sees him with a big Gemara, and the Stipler went over to the boy and he reprimanded him, like, you're showing off. Why are you showing off? Learning out of this big Gemara, like you're a big macher, you're showing off. So the boy looked at the Stipler at the Gadol Ador, and he points to it. He says it was a siddur. He was just davening out of the Chazan siddur. It wasn't a Gemara at all. It was just a Chazan siddur, and he wasn't showing off. He wasn't doing it. He was just davening. Apparently, 4 years later, the boy was bar mitzvah, and the Stipler, uninvited, showed up at the bar mitzvah. And he went over to the boy, and he explained to the boy that as a katan you can't give mechila. and I owe you mechila. I owe you a bakasha of mechila. So here I am at your bar mitzvah. Now you're a gadol. Will you please be meichel me for not being Daniel Lekavskos? Stigler had it written down either in a pad or in his heart. He had it written down. My advice is this. I'm just need to go. My advice is that now it's Elul. Don't wait for the New Year's rush. It's really this is really the time to sit and think, and of course to be makabel on ourselves, Bezos Hashem, not to talk lashon hara, not to talk lashon hara about our friends, not about the country, and not about other people that are not like us exactly. It's a time to make amends. And it's a time to straighten out relationships and ask mechila, and we must do this so that we can come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the Yom HaKadosh of Yom Kippur and ask him, Ma mikvah matayr, HaKadosh Baruch Hu matayr eschem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises us that he will be matayr us.
So to clarify, you sort of jumped over the halacha. And when you say it has to be face to face, is that the same as the telephone?
No, you can ask over the telephone, but it has to be. Why do I say? Because Moshe Feinstein says you could ask over the telephone. So he says even though it's not lechatchila, but since that's the way you do business these days, you can also do this business too. So psat.
I'd like to thank Rabbi Haber very much. I hope this won't be the last time that he'll be speaking in a shul. This is the first part of the series. Next week, Rabbi Beryl Wine will be here with this amazing new film. Please join us. So for the next 3 weeks, get into the Shvong Wednesday night, Menorah Maor, the Elul series. Thank you very much.
Thank you.